Portland was gray that December, the kind of gray that sits heavy in your chest. It was my first winter alone in the city. The apartment was small, the kind of place where the sound of the fridge felt louder than my own thoughts. I'd moved there after college, chasing a job, maybe running from something too, and most days I told myself it was fine. Then I met her. Her name was Hannah Pierce, and she showed up on one of those quiet Thursdays when the coffee shop smelled like cinnamon and cold air. She was sitting near the window, reading the bell jar, her hair tucked under a faded green beanie. I remember because I was waiting for my order, half awake, scrolling my phone, when she suddenly looked up and caught me staring. Instead of pretending I hadn't been, I smiled awkwardly. She smiled back, not in that "you're a creep" way, but soft, like she'd seen this before, that I don't remember deciding to talk to her. One second I was picking up my latte, and the next I was standing by her table, saying something dumb like, "Is that book as depressing as everyone says?" She laughed. God, that laugh. Not loud, not forced, but warm, honest. "Worse," she said, "but it's also kind of beautiful." We talked for a few minutes. Turned out she was new in town too. Moved from Arizona, chasing the art scene, trying to get her paintings into local galleries. She had that kind of restless energy, the kind that made you feel like she was halfway between staying and running away. Before I left, she wrote her number on my coffee cup sleeve. "Text me," she said, "if you ever want to talk about depressing literature again." I still have that sleeve somewhere. Don't ask me why we started texting that night. At first, it was about books, music, the city, the kind of surface-level things people use to avoid talking about themselves. But by the third night, she sent me a voice note. It was late, almost midnight, and she sounded tired. "I like the rain here," she said. "It makes me feel less alone." Something about that line got stuck in my head. I replayed it too many times. A few days later, we met again, this time intentionally. We walked through the Saturday market. She bought an old camera from a thrift stand, and I told her about my job as a junior designer at a tech firm. She listened the way most people don't anymore, with her eyes, with silence. By the time we sat by the Willamette River, watching the city lights ripple in the water, I realized I didn't want the night to end. She looked at me and said, "You don't talk much, do you?" I shrugged. "Guess I've been saving it for the right person." She smiled, and I swear for a moment, it felt like the city stopped raining. Hannah started coming over on Sundays. We'd cook pasta, play vinyl records, and talk about nothing and everything. She'd sit cross-legged on my couch, paint stains on her fingers, and tell me about her family back in Arizona, how her mom wanted her to get a real job, how her dad barely called. Sometimes she'd look out the window and say, "I just don't want to wake up one day and realize I became someone I don't even recognize." I didn't know what to say, so I just reached for her hand. That seemed enough. By January, it was clear, whatever we had, it was real. Not perfect, not even easy, but real. She left her toothbrush in my bathroom. I started keeping almond milk in the fridge because she didn't drink regular. She painted me once, said she wanted to capture the way I looked when I didn't think anyone was watching. I didn't ask to see it. Some part of me knew it wasn't finished yet. Love doesn't fall apart all at once. It erodes quietly, like paint fading in the rain. It started with small things. Missed calls, unread texts, the way she said, "I'm fine," a little too quickly. I thought it was just her being moody. Artists, right? But one night, after dinner, she looked distant, far away, even though she was right beside me. "What's going on?" I asked. She sighed, eyes fixed on her wine glass. "Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" "I don't know," I said. "Maybe. Sometimes. She paused. "I thought moving here would fix something, but I think I brought the same broken parts with me." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away gently. That was the first time I realized maybe I couldn't save her. February came with heavier rain. The streets were always wet, the sky always dull, and so was the air between us. Hannah had started spending more time at her studio downtown, a shared space with other local artists. She said she needed light and noise to think. I didn't question at first, but I noticed she'd come home smelling like paint thinner and cigarettes, even though she didn't smoke. When she was home, she wasn't really there. She'd sit by the window, sketching, barely talking. I tried to joke or ask about her day, and she'd just smile faintly, like she was answering from miles away. Point one night, while she was asleep, her phone buzzed. I didn't mean to look, but I did. Just one notification. A name I didn't recognize, Eli. The message said, "I miss the way you see me." I didn't wake her. I didn't even touch the phone again. I just sat there in the dark, listening to her breathe, realizing something had already changed, and maybe it was my fault for not noticing sooner. We didn't break up that night, or the week after. Love doesn't always end with a fight. Sometimes it just fades into silence. WY March. The spaces between us had grown too wide. She stopped leaving her things at my place. Her toothbrush disappeared. Her favorite mug sat untouched on the shelf. When I asked if she wanted to go on a trip together, somewhere warm, maybe California, she said, "I think I need to figure some things out first." I nodded, pretending I understood. But deep down, I was terrified. Point one night, I went to her studio unannounced. It was late, around 10 p.m. The place smelled like turpentine and rain. I found her standing in front of a massive canvas, a half-finished painting that was me. But not the way she used to paint me. This version looked hollow, my face blurred, fading into gray and black streaks. The eyes were empty, like she'd erased something important. She turned when she heard me. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "Who's Eli?" I asked. She froze. No lies, no excuses, just silence. Finally, she whispered, "Someone who reminds me of who I used to be." That line hurt more than if she'd said she didn't love me. 2 days later, she was gone. Her phone disconnected. Her apartment empty. The landlord said she'd moved out. No forwarding address. I tried to find her, called friends, went to her favorite cafe, even checked art galleries in town. Nothing. It was like she dissolved into the rain. Weeks turned into months. Portland turned from gray to green again. I went through my days half awake, working, eating, pretending to be fine. People at work thought I was just quiet. But every time it rained, I'd look at the window and think of her. The way she once said it made her feel less alone. Then, one afternoon in July, I got a letter and a return address, just my name in her handwriting. Inside was a single page. I thought leaving would make me feel free. But all it did was prove how much of me still belongs to what we had. "You didn't fail me. You just couldn't fix me. I hope you find someone who doesn't need saving. Love, always H." I read it until the ink started to blur. That a year later, I saw her again, by accident. It was December, almost exactly 1 year since we met. I was walking across Burnside Bridge, the air cold enough to sting, when I noticed a gallery window lit up, and there she was, inside, talking to people, laughing softly. Her hair was shorter now, darker. She looked lighter. There was a man beside her, his hand resting on her back. Probably Eli. I stood outside for a while, just watching. Not out of bitterness, but out of something quieter. Acceptance, maybe. She had moved on. Maybe I had too. In my own broken way. I turned to leave. I noticed one of her paintings in the window. It was familiar. A portrait of a man sitting by the river, head turned toward the city lights. Me. But this time, the eyes weren't hollow. They were closed. Peaceful. It wasn't sadness I felt then. Just a strange calm that comes when you finally understand that some people are only meant to love you in one chapter of your life, not the whole story. That night, I walked home through the rain. The city felt quiet, almost kind. And for the first time since she left, I didn't look back. Sometimes I still think of her when the rain hits the window just right, or when I smell coffee and paint. There's no anger left, no longing, just memory. People say love is supposed to last forever. But I think the truth is simpler. Some loves don't last. They just live in small moments, in the spaces between years, in the quiet when the city sleeps. And maybe that's enough.